What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, episode number 366, the arbitrary number that we give to the podcast, because it has to have a number. Couldn't just say the Jiu-Jitsu podcast with the title. It has to have a number because it's really important. Anyway, today's podcast is based on an email. It's based on a conversation that I had, or that we had with Cameron Shane recently, and I kind of thought about it a little bit more. And then I wrote it into an email, and man, it connected with a lot of you guys. So if you're on my Chew Crew email, you got this, right? If you're not on it, you should go to my website, jiu-jitsu.net/join, and join up and get my daily email. I'll send you a free ebook on some training ideas to help you get more focus with your training. Important idea. But anyway, going to it. We were talking about an idea on the podcast, and then I wrote an email about it. A lot of you who are in that email list, that you guys sent me a ton of messages. I got a lot of messages from that one, like, oh man, this connects to me, because I think this is a thing that a lot of people do. And what we're going to get into in a minute is basically talking about why it's dangerous to refer to yourself as a BJJ hobbyist, and why there's an important mindset shift that you're going to have to make if you're in this thing for longevity. And I don't care if you train 1 day a week or like 5 days a week, or like you live on the mats because you're a full-time competitor. You have to look at your body in a certain way. Otherwise, bad stuff's going to happen. And so for a lot of you guys, I know that many of you listening are north of 30, right? You're in the old man club, old woman club, like myself. And so like Eugene as well. And so there's an important mindset shift that you have to make if you're in this thing for longevity, which we are. Everybody gets into jiu-jitsu, and, the goal is like, hey, let's keep going until we're so old that, like, we're rolling on the mats until we just walk off and, kick the bucket when we're like 80, right? But a lot of people don't make it that long. And I think it's in part because of what we're going to talk about. So with that said, hope you guys enjoy the podcast, get an idea about this mental shift you need to make. And a big thanks to our sponsors for helping bring my bearded voice and Eugene's bearded voice to your ears every week. Athletic, it's ATHLETHC, because it's got a little THC in there, .com. And these are some specially formulated mints that they came up with. It's some friends of ours that they have made several different products specific to jiu-jitsu, in some cases and sometimes not. But they've made a lot of different supplements and things like that. And this one is it's a mint it's a micro dose of THC. So it's not like super heavy. You're not going to eat the mint and start having hallucinations like you did when you ate too many special brownies or something back in the day. Nothing like that. It just sort of relaxes you a little bit and can help support different mental states. And so, for instance, one of their mints is called Flow. The name of it is Flow. And, that's to, again, help you get into a flow state. And, if you think about getting into a flow state, it's this weird sort of mindset where you have to be focused, but at the same time, you can't be too overexcited, too nervous, too anxious, whatever. It's like there's this little comfortable middle ground. And I do find that when I use that, it does help me to relax a little bit and let me zone into what I'm doing. So I use them periodically. Again, I don't use them every single day or anything like that, but I do like them every now and then. They also have a rebound one. So sometimes that can be helpful for just kind of chilling out, maybe getting a little sleep, whatever. But anyway, if you guys want to check them out, it's a THC, CBD blend, and they have some different other cannabinoids in it, and they are available to you guys at 10% off if you guys want to check them out. The website is athletic, ATHLETHC.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu10 for 10% off the order. Cool product, like it, check it out. Also, thanks to our buddy over at Epic Roll, our buddies over at Epic Roll. They've been supporting the podcast for a long time. Epic Roll makes a ton of amazing gear. It's they make the gis that I give to my students, and they make the rash guards that I put out for you guys. And so I like their stuff, good quality stuff, great designs, and they have excellent customer service if anything happens. If you guys want to check them out, go to their website at epicrollbjj.com. If you go on the website, just kind of browse through their categories of stuff. Gis, rash guards, shorts, whatever it is that you're interested in, t-shirts. Got a lot of good designs. If you find something you like, you want to save some green stuff, use the promo code Jiu-Jitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, thanks to our longtime sponsor, Charles Webb. They're one of the premier CBD companies out there, been around for a long time. I feel like they were like the first one out there. And again, they kind of set the bar with the CBD stuff because, again, it's an unregulated market. And in an unregulated market, people can get away with a lot of shenanigans because it's not regulated. Everything that they have is third-party tested. They make sure that the what's in the label on the product is what's inside that bottle or the gummy or whatever you have. One of my favorite products that I've been using from them is their sleep gummies, which is a CBN. It's a CBN cannabinoid, so it's a little different than CBD. Really like the product. I've been using CBD off and on for years. I find it valuable. For me, like if you're thinking about like where the supplement falls into play, it's more of in the recovery side of things, right? Which again, if you're getting a little bit older, anything that you can do to support recovery is pretty useful, right? And so I find it useful for that, more of a supporting my sleep cycles and stress levels and managing stress, things like that, right? So again, we really bang our bodies up. We put our bodies under an enormous load of stress, one throughout our daily life, but also if you're going into the gym in some regularity, and it can help with that. So if you want to check out their products and give them a try for yourself, everybody's different with supplements. People respond differently. So I always tell people, just try it out and see what you think. It works for me, may or may not work for you. Your mileage may vary, but again, just like a jiu-jitsu technique, if I find something I like, I share it, and I like their stuff. You can check them out at charlesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. And guys, last, if you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can schlep over to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Again, it's a membership where you join up. It's in for a very inexpensive price. So, it's there really to support the podcast if you want to. And then for that support, we give you a bunch of perks and bonuses. And if you guys want to see what those bonuses are, see what those perks are, go to the website, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. If you're driving right now, don't do it. But if you're coming around, if you're sitting around, check it out. Let's get into this idea. So there's this important idea, in my bearded opinion, that I was thinking about after our podcast with Cameron Shane, who, if you listen to him, it's an interesting podcast. The fellow was definitely a fellow lover of tangents like myself. I can always appreciate that, right? Mm-hmm. Having fun conversations. You have those people that can just dart off in different conversations. I think that's fun. But anyway, here's the idea. Whether you train 1 day a week, 7 days a week, you should view yourself as an athlete. And the reason why is because it does something really important mentally. If you think about how we view an athlete's body, we view their body, an athlete's body, as something to protect, something to take care of, something to really be mindful about, right? But if you look at the way that most people in society today, how they look at their body, it's a complete afterthought. I have a good friend, right? The dude will spend hours on his car. He'll put all the most expensive knickknacks and things on it, whatever. Again, I'm not a huge car guy. I think they're cool, but not like my thing. But he'll spend tons of time on the car. He's working on the car, putting all the most expensive everything on the car. Spends thousands of dollars on his cars. But then he'll tell me, "Oh man, I don't have time to meal prep," so he eats fast food. I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't have time? You don't have time. Then he'll even say, you'll hear, man, eating healthy is expensive. I'm like, expensive? You're spending thousands of dollars on this damn car. But the thing that actually enjoys the car, you're taking terrible care of that, right? And going to the doctor and having shitty blood work and having to come back and, it's not a good place. Because again, once this thing gets out of health, you're going to wish you spent a little bit more time and money on the damn body instead of the car. Yeah. But you see this thing in jiu-jitsu a lot too, where people come into jiu-jitsu and they don't look at themselves as athletes. They look at themselves as hobbyists. This is something I'm doing on the side. I'm just doing this for leisurely activity, whatever. And I think it connected to people when I sent the email out, because a lot of people are guilty of this, right? When you sort of view yourself as not being that serious about it, it's easy to be kind of half in, half out. And so in jiu-jitsu, you'll see people where they'll come in and they'll train their tails off when they're inside the gym, right? Push themselves, but then they'll slack on their sleep. They don't eat a very good diet. They don't strength train. They don't stretch. They drink too much booze. They do not take care of their body in a way where you would think, hey, this person is an athlete, or treat it like an athlete's body. But when you think of jiu-jitsu, I don't care if you're rolling in the most just a casual gym where you get some rolls and stuff like that. You're in an athletic situation. You're jumping on the mats. You're in all these weird positions. You're scrambling around. Your heart rate's probably at its red line at least a few times during every training sessions. You're doing some athletic stuff. And so I think that when you think it's the people who view themselves as hobbyists, which again, they are hobbyists to a degree, but I think there's an important mental shift that allows you to basically, there's a mental shift when you consider yourself as a hobbyist. You allow yourself to be sloppy on how you look after your body. You'll see people buy the newest skis, the best knee braces because their knees are jacked up. They'll devour hours of technical instruction, but then they won't do all the other stuff that they need to do, like meal prepping or lifting weights, whatever, because after all, they're just a hobbyist. It's not that serious, and this is dangerous thinking that leads to a lot of injuries. And again, the reason why I said it's kind of it's an important thing for longevity is because if you don't take care of your bucket of bones, you're either going to run into poor performance at the worst, right? Which is sort of disheartening, or you're going to get injured. Lots of injuries because you're not taking care of the thing that again is your vehicle for exploring grappling. The body, your bucket of bones, your arms, your legs, everything else. It's how you go through jiu-jitsu. And yeah, I know a lot of people say that technique is all that matters, whatever, which again, that's a lie that was propagated to sell you on jiu-jitsu, but partially. I mean, technique is king, but physical fitness is right up there with being effective in jiu-jitsu. Because think about it. I mean, if you have a person that knows all the technique in the world, but literally is out of breath walking up a flight of stairs, you think their jiu-jitsu is going to be good? If you have a person that has all this technical knowledge, but they're so stiff and rigid that they can't even bring their knee to their chest, do you think they're going to be good at jiu-jitsu? Right? Of course not, right? Their body has to be in good shape as well. And so in order to survive in this long term in this athletic environment, you better be taking care of your body and treating it like an athlete's body, treating it like it matters, because it does, right? And so that's an important mental shift. And I think that's something that a lot of people would be benefited by. And, again, do what you want. But I don't think there's a negative side from doing this because, like, okay, you say, well, I start dieting a little bit better and being more mindful of that, or I hire a coach to give me a diet program and I lose a little weight or I get a little bit leaner. Is that going to be helpful long-term in your life? Right. Yeah. If you say, I'm going to really focus on, not scrolling on my phone as much, not over consuming caffeine, and I'm going to try to get better sleep at night. I'm going to try to manage my stress a little bit better and try to maybe just take 10 minutes out of the day and work on some deep breathing to kind of like chill myself out. If you say, I'm going to do a little strength training and stretching just a few times a week, a couple times a week when I can, even if it's just for 30 minutes, is any of that stuff going to be negative for your life? No, right? It's going to be good. And I think this is honestly one of the reasons why I think jiu-jitsu is so helpful, because not a lot of us, I can't say this because I've been doing this stuff for a long time, but a lot of people can become so disconnected from how bad their body actually is. They don't realize how bad of shape they're in, how how it's like basically a car you never drive. You don't realize how much in disrepair it is until all of a sudden you throw yourself into rolling and then you feel that. And then you're like, whoa, I can barely move on the ground. I really need to be mindful of this. Or man, I can't even sit up to do a sweep because my belly's in the way. Probably need to lose some weight, right? And so it gives you a feeling of your body. And I think it's really helpful because you have this feedback loop of here's what happens when you make bad decisions, like eating terrible food. And here's what happens when you make good decisions, right? It's like you get the contrast of the two, and it's very helpful for keeping you motivated, because for a lot of us, when you're doing something like dieting, you don't even really it takes a long time to actually move the needle in some cases. So having that feedback on the gym where you're like, well, if I eat better, I perform better, that's kind of a motivating factor. So I think it helps people motivate themselves to do the things they know they need to do, but they don't. And so again, kind of going back around to it, view yourself as an athlete in jiu-jitsu because you are one.
Yeah, it's probably when he said that, when we were talking to Cameron about that stuff, and he said, everybody's an athlete. You think about it, I think when you refer to someone as athletic, it's a little bit different. When you say somebody's athletic, it means they're kind of maybe more of a dynamic mover. They're more explosive, reactions, those type of things. And as we age, we become less athletic. And that's probably one of the other ideas that from the podcast was Cameron said that he thinks that training no-gi as you get older is probably more beneficial to you, because it forces you to not be so complacent, not be so reliant on grips. It forces you to move and forces your body to get stressed in a way that's going to lead to some adaptations. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to get crushed if you're not getting any, it just basically puts a fire under you. essentially. And as we get more experience, we get a little more complacent, I think, in our ways, right? In our techniques. You can get more, you can get more in your ways. Like, this is what has worked for me. I've been successful in jiu-jitsu, but then as your body starts to kind of decline and you can't quite do the things, you can't get away with as much, right? I think the main thing is, like, your body can't adapt for as much bad stuff as it could when it was younger. Like, it could get away with lack of sleep, poor diet, eating too much of the bad shit and caffeine and things like that. So I think, like, you realize you have less room for error as you get older, and you start to, like, okay, well, I have to change not necessarily how I train, but it's going to allow me to train a little bit, be more effective in my training. My body's going to be more receptive, to a tough training session. I'll be able to recover more easy, things like that. I mean, I think there's just so much that goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, like when I was younger, for instance, I never really could deal with eating poorly. I remember I became like when I was probably 19, I became really, or 18 years old, I became really like sort of anal about what I ate before training. Yeah. Because I remember my mom. So this is like, I'm a white belt. I've been training for, jiu-jitsu. I've been wrestling for a few years, and then with jiu-jitsu was just a handful of months. Right. And I remember my mother had bought, because they didn't eat, they eat whatever. And they bought some Long John Silvers. I don't know how many people have that, because, Long John Silvers is actually a Kentucky-based company. Didn't know if you knew that.
No, no idea. I love Long John Silvers.
Yeah. I mean, it's tasty. It's not good for you.
I loved it. No, it's terrible.
I haven't had it in a long time, but I remember as a kid, I used to love the Crispies, the little just fried, whatever.
You can get a whole thing of Crispies. You used to be able to get just the Crispies.
Yeah, I used to ask them, I would just give me extra. I tell my mom, give me extra Crispies. But I remember one day my mom had brought that stuff home for like my sisters and her, and they're eating it. And I was like, oh, I'll eat some of this stuff. And I had it, and I remember going to the gym. And I remember rolling with guys that I normally had no issues with. And I was struggling so bad. I just felt like I had a brick in my stomach. And again, in the beginning, I'm younger, but like my skill was so bad that, like, besides takedowns and stuff, the room for error was less, because, if I'm having a good day, it's like, it's not the good days and bad days are so close together that, like, my bad days are really bad and my good days aren't really that good either. And so when I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. Whereas like now, like my baseline is so high that I can have a bad day and still be better than most people. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember feeling so terrible. I was like, okay, not eating greasy, heavy food again. Made the mistake a few times over the years, and just really always kept note of which foods seemed to like hurt me the most. So like I stay away from anything fried, of course.
Yes.
I wouldn't do any dairy before training. Cheeses or anything else just doesn't sit well with me. Never has. Was very mindful. Now after training, whatever you want to do, it's fine. But like before training, I would always avoid certain foods. And just because of the feedback that I was getting, man, I felt terrible when I was eating this. And this is what I'm getting back to, is like, if dieting and things like that come really difficult for you, jiu-jitsu gives you this feedback of, hey, you should, maybe not do this thing or eat this thing or whatever. And like you said, when you're younger, you can get away with a lot of stuff. I remember, chasing girls and stuff when I was in my 20s. I remember there was one girl that I was dating, and dude, I would stay up hanging out with her, or talking on the phone, or like going on dates with her. It'd be like, I'd be up to like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'd get up the next day, and, it'd be like, go to training at 9 o'clock in the morning and be just fine. If I did that now, holy crap, bro, I'd be in a bad situation. I could get it done, but I wouldn't feel very good. Whereas when I was younger, you could just kind of get by on it. And so, it's important. Even if you're younger too, with the diet stuff, you can get away with a little bit, because your metabolism is generally a bit higher than it is when you're older, but you're still not going to out-train a bad diet, and so you want to be mindful of that. Whereas like, with anybody that's listening, if you're not at the weight you'd like to be at, you have to get on the diet train, and some weightlifting would be ideal, because you're going to burn more calories from lifting than you do cardio wise. Your Fitbit's a liar. You didn't burn 1,000 calories at your jiu-jitsu session, maybe a couple hundred, right? But that's like one donut, one candy bar, and you're back in the hole. Right. But the diet trains, like it's one of those things that's super important. If you're not at the weight that you would like to be at, you just got to get on a diet. And when I say diet, I mean like you find the foods that you like eating that are good for you, and you just eat that forever, right? And you just don't stop. And there's so many benefits to that. You find foods that are beneficial to you, and I know that a lot of people will say, "Oh man, I can't lose weight." I'm like, you can. It's not. This is like one of the things I've like learned from working with Eli. Like, it's not like not just working with Eli, but having him work with some of my guys, some of my students, and stuff like that. People who were always big, who couldn't lose weight, and then as soon as they get on the program, they lose the weight. They're not having any trouble doing it because they're being supported with good food. They're well fed. And they're losing weight. It's just it's that simple. It's like when me and Eli were working on the Swollen Roll program. I kind of made maybe a crude joke, but I was like saying like when people like they're fed this line of BS on the internet where they're like, oh no, it's not that you can't lose, or it's not the diet that's a problem. It's because you have this, that, or whatever. This is why you can't lose weight. It's all BS. Because like if you look at any of those gruesome pictures during wartime where they have like a camp full of people being starved, there isn't like one person in the bunch that's like still overweight because they have an underactive thyroid, right? Like they don't have the calories, they're going to lose weight. That's how that works. And as much as you try to resist that, you have to embrace it because it literally is that simple. Mm-hmm. It's made to be overcomplicated, or you'll hear people try to zero in on one particular like illness or one particular like random gene that you have or whatever, just to sort of sell you on something. But the legitimate thing is that all you got to do is find foods that you like that are generally beneficial for you. And then you eat those foods and you can lose weight. And I say like beneficial because you could eat candy bars at McDonald's and lose weight, but you want to eat good foods that are going to support your performance, help retain muscle, and also, look good on your blood work too, right? Again, you want those things to be in check, and why wouldn't you want to eat good food for your body rather than eating a bunch of weird processed stuff?
So I can speak to that from experience yesterday. Training session. I just felt so flat. It was kind of getting over Memorial Day weekend. And mind you, I ate pretty decent the day of training. Yeah. It was the day before.
Oh, yeah.
And like my body was still trying to work through just eating some just not ideal food. Just felt like so flat. I was working so much
this weekend.
I had a little bit, not even a lot.
No, I got you. I had a little bit this weekend too.
Like I had like a couple, I'd say equivalent of 2 beers essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
And like in one day. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Like I didn't even feel anything. I just felt flat the next day. And I'm like, and I was well rested. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been hanging out with my kids, just taking a little time off. And so I haven't really I've been sleeping in a little bit and getting enough sleep, but it's just, I felt like just
food will do it to you,
like, I just couldn't get into that next gear. Like usually I have like, and there was times where I could, but I was working a lot harder and I didn't have as much in the gas tank. Like I could do it and then I get tired, a little more fatigued. It was just, the other thing is mentally, I felt tired, not just physically. I just felt just really just not as sharp. And so like diet, like eating for your purpose, whether it's losing weight or eating for performance, I think those are so different. Like for me, eating, like there's a certain way now, like with working Eli, I will eat a certain way. Yep. Now, probably right now, I'm not really necessarily like when I really get dialed in, I have to have something to dial in for. Like maybe I'm trying to look a certain way, or I'm trying to compete, whatever that is. And usually like I as I'm getting ready for a tournament, I kind of think of myself, like I started like saying like I'm getting into training camp essentially. Yeah. Because it's just a mental thing. Like I already have this goal. This is the goal. I do not want to be out there and putter out, on the mats. I don't want to have low energy. I want to know that I'm eating in a certain way and I have a certain expectation of how I'm going to feel. Sure. It's so important.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like I think this is the interesting part, right? Like I've had so many people over the years, whether it was like I gave them a small thing to do, or they worked with like someone like Eli or whatever, but they get on a good diet, right? And they sort of get to it. They have the contrast, they actually get to feel basically, this is actually how bad you actually feel most of the time. You just don't realize it because this has become your norm. I remember one of the students who, cut out some stuff. I told him just to cut some stuff out, and he was coming to me. He's like, "Man, I don't feel like I need to drink a pot of coffee to stay awake." Another one of the guys used to be really big into the whole fasting stuff, the intermittent fasting. He'd always come to the gym fasted because, he had bought into this idea that I got to fast every day, fast, fast, fast. And then he starts eating a diet where he's carbing up before his training sessions. And he's like, "Bro, I feel so good." And I remember like just struggling with him because now you've got this dude who's like 240, 250, I think he's about 240 because he lost some weight, but 240, athletic, strong, fast. And now he's like even more of a pain in the butt to deal with because now he's got an extra oomph to his energy levels, right? That's not fun for me, but he didn't have the contrast. What was normal to him was suboptimal, and so a lot of people just don't realize what it's like to actually feel really good because they feel okay. And then you get them on a really good diet and a good living routine because it's not just the diet, right? You get into this rhythm of like going to sleep on time and eating your food the way you should and eating certain foods that seem to give you a good bump to your training and to your work and everything else. Because even like with work, everybody, like if you do anything that requires your brain, right, you want to be like zoned in on your work and your activities, not feel sleepy all day long. And so you find these things, your foods, your rhythms, your routines that help support that. And then boom, you keep going. This is why my life is so like during like when I'm home, it's so rhythmic and routine, not because I'm attached to it. It's just because it makes me feel good. So why would I change it? You go to sleep at the same time. I go to train at the same time. I go eat these certain meals at the same time. And I feel good and energetic throughout the whole day. So why would I change it? And so again, I've said this numerous times. How you live your life on the mat is just as important as what you do on the mats. I don't know if I said that. How you live your life off the mat,
Yeah.
So because it's like back in the day, like I remember like listening to an old bodybuilder guy that I was at the gym that I used to lift at when I was younger. I remember he was telling some of the young kids, because like the young guys, they want to come into the gym and they just want to train forever, because we're focused on like how much weight we move and really just tearing our bodies up. And I remember he was kind of having a little powwow with us. He's like, "Listen, fellas, you come in, get your workout done, be intense, but be fast, hour and a half. That's it. Go home, eat food, sleep, because you don't grow in the gym, you grow in the bedroom and the kitchen." I remember him saying that. I was like, "Oh, okay." And it's like that with jiu-jitsu, right? Like you get the stimulus in the gym, but like you going to sleep and eating food to recover and to let those neuromuscular connections like fully form, that all happens in the recovery phase. So yeah, you're not necessarily building muscle, but you're building this muscle memory. And again, if you're not recovering properly, if you're not supporting your body with all the adequate nutrients it needs to do those things effectively, you're going to have suboptimal results. And, again, you're also going to probably run into injuries and things like that. That's like a whole reason why I'm such a big proponent of strength training and doing a little stretching, because, most people, that's what knocks them out of jiu-jitsu is injuries.
Oh yeah.
And they come in and they get all into all the technique and everything else, but they sort of just don't think about their bodies. And again, the body is how you go through jiu-jitsu. It's not a head thing. Yes, the head is a part of it. Our brain, our thinking is a part of it, but your body, like I don't care, like if you went through jiu-jitsu and like no one ever explained a concept to you, they just basically got you moving around a little bit and sort of gave you some direction, but never really explained everything down to a T, you'd probably still get decent if you could train long enough, because your body's going to figure things out. Your body eventually becomes so ingrained with grappling that you intuitively just do things because it's the right thing to do, even if you can't quite explain why that is. Now, if you get the conceptual information too, that supports it, but understand that like the body is the important thing. You got to care for that sucker, because this is it. And if this thing gets banged up and injured, then, you're going to end up broken down on the side of the mat and you're not going to be able to train. And so this is why I'm a big proponent, because like you talk about all the time, strength training, and doing a little bit of like, directed stretching, some of the most important stuff you can do for injury prevention.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you've said it multiple times and we've said it before. It's feeling. How do you feel? Does a technique feel good to you? Do you feel good on the mats? Does a certain diet feel good? Do you feel good afterwards? I think when you talked about a consistent routine, it makes things kind of simple. Like you have a simplicity to you don't have to figure out what am I eating today, number one, which is a lot of work. It's a lot of mental and physical energy. Oh, I got to go to the grocery store and do this. But you know what foods you need for the week. And you know, essentially I'm going to I'm going to set out this amount of time to prepare it. And you just kind of already have it built in. And so there's not all this extra noise that you have to kind of try to pay attention to and try to figure out. It's like, what am I eating tonight? Well, I already know what I'm eating. I know how much I'm eating. Like it makes things, first of all, it's efficiency. Like your day is going to be so much more efficient. You're not going to spend all this time trying to figure out what to eat and what quantities. You already have it. So like, I think, and you already know how you're going to feel. You're going to know the expectations. I'm going to have enough fuel for this activity that I need to do. And you're also going to know how to modify if maybe you're adjusting your activity. So I think it just makes things a lot more simple. And then we talk about the feeling, like you feel good, you feel better, you feel energized, or you don't. Like I know if I drink a little alcohol the day before, I'm probably going to feel like shit the next day, and training is going to feel a little bit harder. And it's already hard enough. I mean, we got guys that are 20 years younger than me out there, and they got gas tanks for days. So like I have to bring all of my best elements in there to train the way I want and get the most out of training. I don't want to have a bad training day. I don't want to get to train a couple times a week. So I want to make it count. And I just think just that consistency is so valuable. And it takes a little bit of figuring out. And if you don't want to figure out on your own, hire Eli. If you don't want to figure out what your body needs for mobility and stuff like that, find a coach, find a PT, somebody that understands jiu-jitsu. Find out what your body needs after training to make you feel better. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. Like you're going to have to spend a little money to get something out, and you're going to value it too. I think spending money, the other thing, I'm not a big spender at all, but like I would pay Eli triple, quadruple for what he's given me as far as an understanding and how I felt and my performances in tournaments. Like I feel more confident going into a tournament, knowing I'm a healthy weight and I'm strong. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Again, it's all going to require at least some level, because even if it's all written out for you, you still have to do the work. You know, you can have guidance and stuff like that, but you still have to do the work. And again, this was why it goes back to viewing yourself like an athlete, right? If you look at it as, man, this is a lot of work, all this meal prep, or, you know, I hired Eugene to give me a mobility plan to help me become a little bit less stiff and rigid. God, this is a lot of work. Why am I doing this? I'm just a hobbyist. You know, then you go back to giving yourself that out, right? Like I actually asked a few of you guys that sent reply emails back to me, and I asked you, I said, like, why did this email connect with you? What was it about it that struck you? One guy said it hit him at his core. And again, a lot of people, it's just they give themselves excuses. They know that they don't feel good with certain things. They know they should diet better. They know they should not drink as much. They know they should stretch a little bit and maybe lift some weights, but they just don't do it because it's, you know, it's just easier to be like, no, I don't need to do that. I'm not that serious about it. I'm just coming a couple times a week. I'm a hobbyist. But when you again view yourself as an athlete, then that then mentally requires you to have a certain level of discipline applied to your physical body and the way that you treat it and the way you look after it at 24/7. Instead of it being like, hey, I'm going to go train for 2 hours a day and that's going to be this big thing, it's 24/7. How are you taking care of your body 24/7 in the room, out of the room, the whole thing? That's really important because, you know, when you start doing any sort of diet, it's going to require work. You start doing stretching, strength training, especially if this stuff that doesn't come easy to you, it's going to take a little bit to sort of become a part of your rhythm, a part of your routine, right? It takes a little bit of time, but once you get it down, it's not so bad, but it's a little bit of work. And so again, it's why I think it's really useful to view yourself as an athlete and not just a hobbyist, because it's just an out. And I don't think you're going to need more discipline if you want to do this stuff for the long term. If you're like, jiu-jitsu is really enjoyable, I really like it, I want to do this until I'm like old as dirt and I want to be able to move around on some level, you got to have some discipline about the way you treat your body. And if you don't care, that's up to you. But understand that everything that we've been talking about, your diet, lifting weights, stretching a little bit, you know, doing other things, sleeping, all that's within your control. Sure, you got a busy life. There's things that you might have to do. You might have to really like work to make some of these things happen, but all that's within your control on some level. And you're the only person that can change it. that's how this works. And again, it's just like that. And I think that's one of the most valuable lessons that grappling can give you, because it is a singular sport. That's something I got from wrestling when I was in high school. It's like, oh, like anything that I want to change, I have to change it. I can't, like, because it's, in a team sport, hey, you got to throw the ball and you did this. And so I can always pass blame to someone else. But in a grappling sport, when you fall short, it's on you, bro. You deal with it, right? And I think that's such a useful life skill, because there's sometimes you can be kind of, I'm one of these people, I can sometimes be imbalanced where I try to do too much and not ask for help ever. Like I never just, even though I should sometimes. But the other side of it is that like when I need to make change, I have no problem doing it because I know I have to do it, and I can hold myself accountable to that because it's all on me. Right. And I can't blame it on anybody else because I have to do this change. And so I think that's part of the reason why that mindset shift is so important.
A lot of the things we talked about are things you can control. You can control a lot of these things. And I think that should give people that are having a hard time with some of these changes some confidence, because like you can control some of these factors. Yes, sometimes your schedule goes crazy. You have a sick kid, can't get to training, don't get enough sleep, some of that stuff. But man, can you figure out how you eat and control how you eat? And maybe you have an hour here and there instead of scrolling. Can you go and get a good workout in and do something to support your body? I just think you got to want it. Like, I think that's a huge thing, is like you have to want to be better. I've never gone to jiu-jitsu and wanted to be mediocre. I know I'm not the best. I will never be the best, but I want to freaking eke out as much out of my body as I can. And I also don't want to be sick. Like I want to be able to play with my kids when I'm 60, like, and they're in their 20. I want to be able to like play basketball or even do jiu-jitsu with them if they're interested. You know what I mean? I want to do that stuff. Like I want to squeeze out the highest level of performance from my body for the longest amount possible.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just like, and that's a dangerous thing with, quote unquote, elite athletes, right? You're pushing your body to the brink of failure because you're trying to get the most out of your body as you can.
Right. You're at the top end of performance.
And
anytime you go to the top of end of performance at anything, you run the risk of just breaking stuff. If you take a vehicle and you tweak it out to where it's at the top end of performance, stuff just breaks down. You take the human body, which is this beautiful biological machine, when you push it to its top end, you're basically foregoing any health benefits along the way, and you're basically seeing, let's see what it can do, right? So again, for most of us, that's not where we're going. For most of us in jiu-jitsu, even if we're like, if you're a master's competitor like me, you might ramp it up periodically.
Yes,
but we're more focused on like, hey, I want to just be able to do this for a really long time because it adds something to my life. It makes my life better. So I want to be able to do it. Kind of going back to your idea about motivation, right? Like you have to want it. There was I was reading one of Dan Gable's books the other night, which I'm for some of you guys that are in the flow and controlled coaching program. Whenever I do these group coaching programs together, like when we're focused on something, I always start off my first little objective for people is like, identify your distractions and let's get rid of them, because you have too much on your plate. And for a lot of people, like to me, when I talk to most people, 3 out of 4 people, their number one distraction is like social media, TikTok, Instagram, all this stuff. And I'm like, is it adding anything to your life? And most people, it's like, yeah, it gives you some random information that's maybe kind of tickles you, but like, is it really adding anything to you? Like if that app was removed off your phone for like 90% of the day, and maybe you checked it for 20 minutes a day and then you deleted it back off your phone, would you really be missing out on anything, right? Like, would it really do anything negative for your life? Or would you like gain a lot of focus, a lot of mental clarity, and have more time for things that are more important to you, right? But we started with that, right? And so we're kind of going through that process. And I was reading Dan Gable's book and kind of going back to like, the reason why I brought that up is because, I talk to people and they're like, I don't have time to read. I'm like, what do you do at night before you go to bed? Scroll. I'm like, read. Put your phone away, put it in a corner, get an alarm clock, read your book. But anyway, reading the Dan Gable's book, and he was talking about how he felt a lack of motivation at one point. And he said that anytime he was unmotivated, he would basically just sort of get a little space and try to figure out what is he going to focus on, because what he sees as a lack of motivation is just a lack of focus. Because if you're focused on something, you got all the motivation you need. If you have a goal in
Yes.
front of you that you actually want, that you actually like really want to accomplish, you got motivation. So like, for instance, like with you were talking about getting ready for a competition or getting ready to look a certain way, whatever. You had a goal in mind. So then when you
100%.
go in this like really disciplined diet, it's very easy to do. And for people, a lot of times I think that's a really useful thing to think about, right? Like you don't chase a goal just because you think you should. You chase a goal because there's something you want at the end of it, like something to go after. And then you have that motivation, like, all right, because if you're getting ready for a competition, it motivates you to push yourself a little harder, to do the diet, to do a little extra cardio, because you don't want to end up in that match and be exhausted. If you're maybe trying to look a certain way for a certain purpose, right? You have this motivation behind it. And so, whenever you kind of take on these big goals, right? These big changes, you really have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Because the why is really important. The why is what sort of keeps you going. What is the old Nietzsche quote, right? I don't know if it's really him, because sometimes these quotes get like kind of misattributed.
Yeah.
But the idea was like, if you know your why, you can endure anyhow. So if you know why you're doing something, you'll continue to do it. You'll dig through. And so I think that idea was it was really useful, because I agree with that. Like anytime I feel like I'm in a scrambled place mentally, which happens sometimes, I'll try to take a day where I just kind of let my mind wander and be like, what do we want to go after? Like, what's my next mission? What's my next objective? Let's get really focused in on something. And that as soon as I have a good, clear focus and I'm like, yes, this is what I'm after, boom, I'm instantly like more motivated. I instantly wake up a little earlier to get started with things. It's like everything moves in the right direction because I have a target set in my sights. And so maybe if you sometimes lack a little bit of motivation, what you probably lack is just being focused on a goal that's meaningful to you.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I've wrestled with the term motivation. It's like, because motivation is one of those things that, comes and goes, it's not always consistent. I think the idea that I was thinking about is being inspired or to do something, or an inspiration to do something, like compete or, just get in better shape, whatever that is. But I think I feel like almost those terms can be used interchangeably in some ways,
Well,
like
it depends on how
motivation
you
and
look at it. So this
or
is like, I've looked at those words. If you look at the etymology of the words, what I think most people consider motivation is actually inspiration,
yeah,
because the word inspire, right? The word
yeah,
derives from basically to breathe, right? So like the word derives from this idea of like being like having something put into you. You're breathing in
yeah,
this energy, so to speak. So you're inspired, perspire, right? Whatever. So there's inspiration where something strikes you. You're like, yes,
yeah,
haha, this is the thing I need to do. And people wait around for the inspiration, and rarely does it come. When you look at the etymology of motivation, it actually derives from the word move, right? Like the Latin word for like movement. And so motivation in my book is like it basically comes after you do something. It's movement
yeah,
based. So like the old idea that an object in motion stays in motion. When in your life do you feel the most motivated? When you're taking action, when you like, you know what I mean? Like imagine like some of you that are listening to this, right? Like you go out and maybe there's something you wanted to start doing, right? And you finally start doing it. How good does that first day feel? Right? When you finally, the first day you went to the gym, the first day you did your diet, the first day you went to jiu-jitsu, there was this really pretty person that you wanted to try to talk to, and you went and talked to them for the first time, whatever the thing is, right? Something that you had in your mind that you wanted to do. You did it. How good does that feel? It feels amazing.
mhm,
So that's where motivation comes from. You create motivation. Inspiration strikes you at random times when, God, the universe, whatever you wish, sort of like hits you over the head and you're like struck by some idea. It's great
yeah,
when it happens, doesn't come very often. And it doesn't stick around for very long, especially if you don't do anything with it. You can think of inspiration as a spark,
yes,
and then from there you got to turn it into a flame, and you do that by your movement. You do that with your action. You do that with actually taking action on whatever it is you're doing. And again, in order to continue that action, you typically have to have a worthwhile goal that means something to you. It's picking out something you actually want to do, not because everyone in society thinks you should, but because you actually deeply want to do it.
I think one of the things that's kept me, I think, inspired with jujitsu is to not like give myself everything I want right away. Meaning, like, I always want to keep like, so for me, it was unique because I'm gonna try to explain this. When I started training, I was in graduate school when I
Hmm.
started at the first gym. I couldn't get in there every day. I
Right.
couldn't. So I got a little bit and I was like, damn, I can't wait to go back. And I got to train again. I was like, damn, I can't wait to go back. And it was just this thing. And so like I gave myself a taste, but I didn't give myself, it's like I had a little bit of a taste and I was
You
like,
didn't burn it
damn,
out.
I didn't burn out. And I
It's
think
almost like
that's
it's like a song when you hear like a really good song you really like, and then if you listen to it too much, you don't want to listen to it anymore.
right.
Versus like if you don't listen to it or you only hear it every now and then, you still enjoy hearing it.
Yeah. I think that I was fortunate that way because I never, and then when I was training for things, I got to, and I was a single guy without done with school and I was working. I didn't have much else going on except work and training. I think I was able to get in there a lot more.
Mhm.
But again, that still wasn't enough at the time. Like I think that's for people just to keep a little bit, hold back just a little.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's really hard to do, but you have all the time to do whatever. And it's not the same for everybody. I think some people can train 7 times a week, multiple times a day, and they still have a hunger to continue to train and
Mhm.
learn because it's their thing they enjoy the most. I don't know. Was there anything for you to kind of keep yourself inspired or like hungry for a task? It could be jiu-jitsu or anything else.
Someone asked me the other day, we were talking about a business thing that I'm working on, right? And it's they're like kind of like what's like talking to these, talking to different people, they're like, what's your grand vision for this thing? The grand vision.
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't really have grand visions for things, right? Generally I'll have goals that come along, right, that I go after, but I get really focused on finding something within the process of the things that I'm doing that I thoroughly enjoy, right? And so that means that like no matter what I'm doing, I kind of enjoy what I'm doing all the time. So for instance, like for some of you guys, just as an example, we'll jump around a little bit. When I write a daily email, and it's me writing the damn email, right? It's actually me. It's not AI. It's me writing the damn email every day. I've written it since 2018. Since 2018 in July.
Yeah.
It's a long time to be doing something every single day. Now, granted, I take the weekends off most of the time, but like, at least minimum 5 days a week for this many years. I mean, it's a long time to be doing something almost every day with consistency.
Yeah.
And here it's been a little bit busy, but for the same amount of time, my YouTube channel is almost 3 days a week, a video every 3 days a week. I've been teaching classes with some like since 2010, like almost 5, sometimes depending on the years, 5, 6 days a week. You're like some days it's 7 days a week, not that often, but most time it's like 5 or 6 days a week. It's a long time to do stuff
Yeah.
consistently, but I enjoy what I'm doing and all of those things that I'm doing because I found a love for the process that I'm doing. And I think it's like that. If you can find something within the process, there's things you're obviously not going to enjoy, like being a gym owner and a business owner. It's not all fun. There's a lot of stuff I don't like. Um, don't want to get into it, but I mean, like I remember me and Marvin were talking last night. I kind of had an emotional moment for a second because it was like, there's some stuff I really don't like because there's a way that people treat you. When you start to like climb up any sort of ladder, and it really sucks sometimes. But
Treat you like personally?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What do you mean?
And we'll talk about it off air. But talk about it. But I enjoy the process of what I'm doing. So I enjoy teaching people on the mats. I enjoy training on some level, even if I can't train full speed, full hardcore, whatever. I always can find something that I can do. I enjoy working with people. I enjoy writing the email to you guys and then being able to reply back and forth with you. I enjoy making the videos and sharing ideas. I enjoy doing all the stuff that I got to do. And so I think for anything that you do, if you don't like doing it, you should probably find something else. I'm not saying it's difficult because difficult can still be enjoyable, right? But like I see people that'll send me messages and they'll say, "Man, like I don't want to go to the gym." And I'm like, "Well, then why are you going?" It shouldn't like unless you're training so hard that you're burning yourself out and you just need to take a couple of days of rest to recoup. If you're training like 2 or 3 days a week and you can't stand going to the gym, then why on earth are you doing it? There's other things that you can do that you might enjoy more. You got to find your thing. And so I think for me, it's like I got lucky enough to find my thing, my things. Like I lift weights. I love lifting weights too. Find it super enjoyable. I don't have to drag myself to do any of this stuff. I do it with a smile on my face. Pretty much every day. And so I think like a lot of times it's like you have to find what you're actually after and find out what you want. And again, it goes back to listening to your body, your mind, right? Again, people are so distracted. There's so much noise going on because they consume too much crap. Everybody's pushing their ideas on them. My sort of call to people is like, you got to take your intuition, try it out. It's like a jiu-jitsu technique. If I teach someone a technique, they have to try it and see how it works for them. Just because it works amazing for me doesn't mean it's going to work for them. They have to test it. And so for you, like when you're talking about like modes of being and things that you're going to do, you have to test it out for yourself and see how it works for you. Do you really enjoy this activity? Is this really something you want to do? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Jiu-jitsu isn't for everybody. I wish it was, because I think it's a really great sport. I think it has a lot of benefits to give people, but it's not for everybody. And anybody can be good at it, but it's not for everybody. So you have to find what is good for you. And again, that comes from you listening to yourself. And again, this is another reason why I think it's really important to have some sort of barrier between yourself and like being bombarded by like fast information on social media and things like that. I know I talk about this stuff all the time on the podcast, and I'll do it forever because it's been valuable to me. And so I share it with people, and anybody that does it, it's valuable to them. If you limit yourself there, it's like you start to give your mind room to work with, because you're not taking in all this information. So your mind has some space. You can start to noodle around on ideas that are going through your head and maybe how you actually feel versus boom, 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 boom. You're being bombarded by constant information. So you don't ever even get a chance to like tune into your body. Like, hey, how are you feeling right now? What's going on? What kind of goals do you have? What kind of activities would you like to be in? What things are important to you? Are you enjoying this activity? That kind of thing. And so for me, I guess to kind of long-winded way to say it is what makes me motivated is just finding things that I enjoy doing and then just continuing to do them. And maybe I'm just sort of simple, but like that's plenty good for me. That's all I need, right? I don't need anything crazy. I got that, and I'll just keep running along with that. And I periodically set goals for myself. I chased after those goals and then ramp up, and then I'll dial back down a little bit. And I maintain a kind of a constant pace with everything that I do that's manageable for me. So my training's manageable, my work rate's manageable. I do all these things to where I can basically work at this clip indefinitely. And then when I need to ramp up for something, I can ramp up periodically for work, for training, for whatever. And then I come back down to my pace and I just kind of cruise along. And I don't burn out. I don't get overworked. I'm able to kind of keep that rhythm. And so that's tends to be the way that I like to do things. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you got something out of it. Again, if this idea spoke to you, let us know. Send us a Instagram message or email to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. It's on Instagram perfectly well. You can send it to my email and stuff as well. But again, let us know. I just like, again, I don't, it's not like my email or my YouTube channel where you can drop comments and reply back. So I like hearing from you guys to see how the podcast is going. When you guys send out messages, I do appreciate them because it's just good to hear from the feedback from you all. Because there's thousands of you guys that listen to this thing every week, and I don't have thousands of messages back. I know not everybody's going to, but again, when you guys come across a message in the podcast that you guys enjoy, let us know, because then it kind of lets us know, oh, maybe we should talk about something like this again, or maybe something similar. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it, guys. Big thanks to our sponsors for helping make the podcast happen. Our newest sponsor, Athletic, ATHLETHC. They're a formulation of mints combining THC with different cannabinoids to create a micro-dosed mint that is there to help you support you with like your training, getting into the flow state, recovering from all the training and everything we do. Some different formulations that they've created. Right now, I think they have 3, and there's 3 that I've tried. But again, really low dose. So you take it, it's like 2 milligrams of THC. It's nothing crazy. You're not going to be off your rocker hallucinating, thinking that my buddy one time he ate a mint, or I think it was a candy bar. He ate too much. And he thought he was just like, he was imagining that his little cat was a tiger, and he was like, oh God, right? I mean, he was out there, but nothing like that. I mean, literally just it's gonna relax you a little bit and help you get into those mental states. like a flow state when you're training, or a more relaxed state if you're trying to recover, that kind of thing. If you guys want to check them out, they've got a promo code with us. It's at athletic.com, ATHLETHC. Promo code is Jiu-Jitsu 10 for 10% off the order. I like the product, been using it off and on for several months now. Again, no crazy hangovers. You're not high off your rocker, nothing crazy like that. It's just a little bit more of a relaxed mindset to support you in the different things you're doing. Also, thanks to our buddies over at Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. They make a lot of great gear. It's why I use them to make the gis for my gym. I also get them to make the rash guards and shorts that I use for my Chewjitsu gear. And it's the only thing that I wear most of the time. I mean, I love the quality. I love the fit. They've got longer shorts, shorter shorts, and the rash guards I think are top notch. And so again, lots of great stuff on their website. If you guys want to check them out, go to their website at epicrollbjj.com. If you find something you like, check out the at the checkout, promo code at checkout is Chewjitsu 20 for 20% off the order. Also, if you guys want to check out Charlotte's Web, they are one of the OGs of CBD. They were making it way back in the day before it was really even a thing, before it was widely popularized. They have a lot of different products these days. They've got everything from the traditional CBD products. They also have other cannabinoids like CBN, which is great for sleep. They have other things like functional mushrooms like reishi and lion's mane to help support you with different functions that you might want to get into, and a lot of other stuff. So they've got a wide variety of stuff on their website to help support you. I've used a ton of it, everything from their CBD products to the CBN products to their functional mushroom products. Everything that they come out with, it's just one of these things that they have such a high standard for everything that they produce, that whenever they produce something, you know it's going to have what it had. Like, again, many of us can be skeptical about supplements and stuff, which I understand, but everything that's in the label, it's there. They have a high rate of focus on producing good products, even sometimes if they don't have to, because they're in unregulated markets in some cases. And so they hold themselves to a high standard. And so I like their products. And anytime I use something, I feel assured that they're going to put good stuff into them so that I can take care of myself. And again, for me, that's important. So if you guys want to check them out and try some of their stuff out, again, just like we're talking today about the podcast, about being intuitive and figuring out what works for you, you may use their products and feel nothing. But you might be like many people who use their products and then continue to use them because you feel something, and you feel like you get value from it. So check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Jiu-Jitsu30 for 30% off the order. If you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can scoot on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. When you go to the website, obviously it's there to support the podcast. It's a monthly membership. Scary. It's very inexpensive, right? It's cheaper than probably what you'd spend at a coffee shop on an average day. But again, it supports the podcast. And then for return for that, you get a bunch of extra perks. If you guys want to check out the perks, then go to the Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And last but not least, guys, if you guys want to get my daily email that I send out, obviously that this podcast was based on, and also get an ebook that I give away, go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join. When you roll on over there and sign up, you will then subscribe to my daily email, which comes out usually Monday through Friday, sometimes through the weekends if I'm doing like special sales and stuff like that, which I give a lot of people different discounts that I only release in that email. But along with that, you'll get an ebook and a video that goes through some ideas on focused training. So kind of going along with the same thing that we talked about today. If you're not training all the time, it's a really good idea. And again, this is a good idea whether you're training all the time or not. But for those of us who can't train every single day, it's really, really beneficial to be detailed with the training and what you're doing. So for instance, you're going to the gym, you kind of want to know what you're working on. We don't want to just show up and say, oh, I'm here, let's see what's going on, right? Nothing wrong with that. You can turn your brain off a little bit. Maybe that's the right thing. But if you're one of those people that would like to improve a little bit, it's very easy to create a little bit of focus for yourself. And you can do this at white belt to black belt, doesn't matter. And I'll show you how to do it in the ebook and the video if you want to check it out, jiu-jitsu.net/join. And so guys, with that said, appreciate you all. Hope you had a good time with us today, and we'll talk to you next time.